What's happening, guys? Today I want to talk about the downside of flexible dieting. Okay, so this has become kind of a reoccurring theme for me lately, especially with newer clients who are getting going, who have experience with tracking macros but really struggle with eating out or getting off plan or feeling like they're not hitting things spot on. And what I really want to talk about is how flexible dieting and hitting your macros aren't really one of the same. Right, so a lot of times we get the two things confused. Like we think of flexible dieting means eat whatever you want, just fit it within your macros, which there is certainly a flexible component of that, but that doesn't mean flexible dieting. Right, so one of the things that I have really liked over the last couple of years, the trend has gotten away from IIFYM, which stands for if it fits your macros, and has gone much more towards flexible dieting. So most people start to say flexible dieting now versus IIFYM, and I like that because they are different things, right? Being flexible just means being flexible with your diet. There are practically infinite amount of ways to be flexible with your diet and still see results. Now, I am definitely a huge proponent of tracking macros. I think it's extremely valuable. It helps teach people that they can include some of the foods they enjoy in their diet and still see results, and it can help create a better relationship with food. But on the flip side, especially for people with more type A personalities who just really want to have a lot of control over everything, this can really almost become an eating disorder on the flip side of things. So now, instead of feeling like they have to only eat the exact same foods all the time and then potentially binging on the bad foods when they get off plan, well, now they feel like they need to hit their macros spot on, and if you aren't like 100% on top of your macros, then there's no point, and then the binge still happens anyways because you feel like, well, I didn't do exactly what I was supposed to do, so now there's no point. This is not behavior we want. This is not what we want to see, and this is why I really like the averages. If you've been watching my reverse diet series with my client Vivian, one of the things that I always show is averages. We look at averages for the week. We look at averages for macros and for weight and for everything else. And I just find that that really helps because you can see that you can go over and under on a daily basis and still make your average work out by the end of the week. And one way to be more flexible with that is just kind of create some ranges for whatever you're trying to accomplish. So that range is going to be different for everybody depending on what their goals are, what phase of training they're in, whether they're deep into a cut or into a reverse or deep into a building phase or wherever else. The ranges can go up and down based on that. So maybe by the end of the week we want people to be within, like if we're getting really tight, then we want to say, okay, like within 5 grams of everything, again for the average by the end of the week, and maybe within like 30-ish calories. But then we can kind of start to go out from there. And as we get higher, maybe we say 10 grams of each thing and within 50 calories. Or maybe we say, okay, now we try to keep it within 20, or maybe we get to a point where we say, now we're not even looking at exact macros, we're just looking at calories and protein and making sure we're hitting those, and then probably set a fiber goal as well. That's another good way to be really flexible and add a little bit more flexibility to it, but still kind of keep you in a good spot. Again, it always just kind of depends. Like the lower your calories are, the more aggressive you have to get, the more tight everything has to be, the less flexible you can be. And that's just how it goes. That's just the natural progression of things. Higher calories means a bigger budget, so to speak. Lower means a lower budget. So if you think about, I've talked about this before too, but if you think about flexibility and accuracy on a sliding scale, they can't both be elevated. So if you've got flexibility here and accuracy here, as soon as flexibility goes up, accuracy is going to go down, right? But if accuracy goes up, flexibility is going to go down. We can't do both. We can't be flexible and super accurate at the same time. It's not possible, all right? So it's kind of like you're a little bit more, it doesn't mean you're all flexible and no accuracy, or all accuracy and no flexible, but there's a little bit less or a little bit more depending on what phase you're in. So anyways, looping back to what I was originally trying to talk about, but I got off on my own little side tangent, is we can be flexible in many different ways, and one of the things that I find is a nice way to be more flexible is maybe we have a free meal occasionally, and again, it depends on what phase we're in. But you go out and you go out with your spouse or whoever, and you just have a nice meal. You don't go crazy, but you have something that you want that sounds good. You don't track it. You don't worry about what the calories are. You just enjoy it. and don't worry about it. You still eat the same like you normally would throughout the day and throughout the rest of the week, but you just have this one meal where you're not worried about it. One of my clients recently, she was really struggling with this, and this is kind of part of what triggered this video, is she was just really worried about going out and having this free meal and then wanted to compensate all the different calories throughout the day, but then she was worried about if I compensate and eat less calories, then I might go into my dinner really hungry and overeat, which that's a very common thing to have happen. If you try to save your calories, sometimes that can really trigger to just go nuts because you get so hungry. Again, everyone's different. Some people that works really well for, but she was really kind of stressing out about like not tracking it and getting off and things like that. And I just told her, like, just be calm, let it go. This is part of what we're trying to do. Your calories are on the rise, so it's a good thing to do while you're in a reverse diet. I just want you to go out with your husband and have a nice meal and enjoy it, not worry about it. Don't try to like do the calculations in your head, just enjoy the meal. This is part of being flexible. So like I said, a lot of people get trapped into flexible dieting means hit your macros spot on, and there is nothing flexible about feeling like you have to hit your macros every single day down to a T. That's not being flexible at all. Yes, there's a flexible component in interchanging food sources however you want, but that's still not being very flexible, all right? Sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we need to dial it in, but that's not all of life when it comes to flexible dieting. It's learning how to let control and be in situations in your life where you don't feel like you have to track and you can stay relatively on point and just enjoy it and not worry about it. And the goal for a lot of people is probably to get away from tracking all the time. I mean, if you don't mind it, if you're someone like me who just has been doing it for so long, it's like second nature and you don't really even think about it, and I probably spend less than 5 minutes even worrying about tracking, that's one thing. But if it's something that really kind of stresses you out and you don't like it, then the goal should probably be to get away from that a little bit long term. But I just find that it's so valuable to spend at least a few months. Like if you've never tracked macros, I really think that most people, if not everybody, should at least track for a few months and just get a better understanding of your food, because everyone wants to eat intuitively, but how can you eat intuitive if you don't know what's in anything you eat? Like, it just comes down to, well, if I remove this food I lose weight, but then when I add it back in I gain weight, so that food must be bad. Well, no, it's because you eliminated calories and then you probably felt really restricted, so you added them back in and binged on it and then gained because you added a bunch of calories back in. It's not because that food is good or bad, it's just you have kind of a bad relationship with it. But if you don't take the time to learn and be more flexible and understand what's in the food, long term, once you do it for a while, you start to understand. You can look at food and go, okay, like I know it's roughly this much carbs, this much fat, this much protein. I know it's roughly this much calories. I know a serving size looks a little bit like this. Like, you can kind of get in the ballpark and have a decent understanding of food and nutrition and be able to take that information and then be more intuitive to the point where you might not necessarily have to track all the time. But if you never track, if you never look at macros, and if you never really dive deep into it, then how can you possibly know? You just don't. You just basically look at food as good or bad, and that's just not a good spot for most people to be in. It's not a very healthy relationship with food. One last thing I do want to quick cover, and that is, to me, I just want people to be happy. I want people to not be controlled by food and to be able to see results, right? So that's the biggest thing. So I don't want anybody to ever like misconstrue what I'm saying and saying that like you have to track macros and that it's the be all end all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't care how you diet, as long as you can do it in a sustainable manner. So that's gonna be different for everybody, and you have to understand how you work, how you tick, your preferences, what triggers you, and all the different things that make you more or less successful. And that's gonna be different for everybody. I find that this style that I do with people typically seems to work for the majority of people, but that's not gonna be everybody. We always have to understand that. And like, if you like keto, or if you like being vegan for whatever reason, if you like Avocare or paleo or whatever it is, like, that's fine, as long as you can do it, sustain it, enjoy it, and have a good relationship with food and enjoy your life, and you're happy. I'm happy. All right, at the end of the day, that's what I want for you. I want you to be happy, and I want you to enjoy your life. And I don't want you to be controlled by food. I want you to have control over food and incorporate it into your life in a healthy manner that you can sustain long term, and hopefully get you the results you want, but also just be healthy, not only physiologically but also mentally as well. So wanted to throw that out there. Okay, that's all I have for this video. As always, please, any questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, if you like the video, I'd appreciate a like, and I will talk to you next time.